Intersex Stories, Activism, Resistance and Being. I'm Valentina Vecchietti. My pronouns are she and they. I do need you all to be aware that I'll be using film clips where people are referring to their experiences of non-consensual surgeries and medical interventions during infancy, childhood and teenage years, but I won't be showing anything graphic and there won't be a lot of graphic dialogue. It simply is that that's the nature of the situation when we're talking about films made by or for or about people with intersex variations. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you might know some things about me, and some of you might not. I'm a intersex activist. I've been working for many, many years. I'm a columnist, intersex columnist at Diva magazine. I founded an organisation through the pandemic called Intersex Equality Rights UK, seeking to create inclusion, equity and representation for people with intersex variations. I largely work in culture though, and in May 2021 last year, I added the intersex flag to the Pride flag, and it went viral on the internet and became internationally welcomed as the new Pride flag, culminating in some remarkable events, including Lewis Hamilton wearing our new Pride flag on his crash helmet during Qatar Grand Prix, bringing intersex inclusion and visibility onto the world stage in a sort of amazing way. As well as that, the TV show And Just Like That, using it in the backdrop as well on a stage in episode 8, at the beginning of episode 8, if anyone wants to see that. But yeah, so doing lots of things to raise visibility for intersex inclusion. We're sharing our flag files freely through the LGBT Consortium, who've been supporting us. And I've just put a link at the bottom there. If anyone wants to photograph that, they're welcome to. If you want the new files. But I think a lot of people are selling them now. So first off, I need to tell you a little bit as well about what intersex is. We always need to, when we do events focusing on intersex. And I'm going to get my dear friend Danny Coyle to tell you about intersex from their TikTok 101 series. They're very cool and fantastic intersex activist and creative. Here we go, Danny.
So intersex people can have one or a range of differences in our sex characteristics. These can be primary characteristics like internal or external sex organs. These can be chromosomal. These can be how your body produces and receives hormones. Or they can be secondary, like how we grow body hair or breasts. This means our bodies don't neatly fit into the traditional binaries of male or female.
It don't exist, young.
It's also important to remember that sex and gender are not the same thing. Being intersex is different to being trans or non-binary. Sex refers to somebody's biological sex traits. Gender refers to somebody's gender identity, sense of self and expression. The two are completely different things and they are not intrinsically linked, but they both exist on spectrums, like everything else on the planet.
Part 2 done. Learning things with Intersexy. Yeah.
I'm done now, sorry, stop.
I highly recommend that you go to Intersexy, that's Danny Coyle's name, on TikTok and Instagram, and see their brilliant reels explaining all the things we need to know about intersex. A note about language as well. I use the word intersex. I also might use the word variations in sex characteristics or intersex variations. In these video clips, you might hear somebody use the word hermaphrodite or the word intersexual. You might hear the term DSD. I wouldn't use the term intersexual. I wouldn't use the term hermaphrodite. I think if somebody has an intersex variation themselves and chooses which words they use, that's fine. But when you're coming from outside the community, I think it's important to know that hermaphrodite's not a great word for anyone to be using, and always be informed by the person that you're with who has an intersex variation as to how they prefer, which term they prefer to use. But do be empowered to know that we do have an intersex flag, which flies, which Morgan Carpenter developed and which I added to the Pride flag. So for the purposes, cultural purposes, you can refer to the word intersex and know that you're all good to do that. Endosex, some people, everybody knows that the opposite of a trans person is a cisgender person. And so the opposite of a person with an intersex variation is an endosex person, somebody who doesn't have an intersex variation. And for hate crime, another thing that a lot of people don't know about, interphobia, that's the word for hate crime towards people with intersex variations. I want to move away from northern-centric narratives. So I just want to make a note about comparison populations. I didn't use the term, a lot of people will say we make up 1.7% of the population, which is the same as red hair and green eyes. And no doubt it is in the Northern Hemisphere. However, half my family come from the global South and no one has red hair and green eyes. And I'm moving away. I'd like us all to move away from that way of saying, oh, there are as many intersex people as there are with people with red hair, because it's only works for the Northern Hemisphere. Let's talk about the population. If it is 1.7%, which it is, it could be slightly larger, but we're looking at over 130 million globally. We're looking at over 1.1 million in the UK. Let's stick with statistics that we can understand and include all of us. Also, another little bit of housekeeping I have to do, LGBTIQA+, the I after the T, keeping I visible and keeping intersex human rights visible. Many countries all across the world put the I after the T and keep intersex visible and included. UK seems to be very slow on the uptake of changing that, but that's the way I use it, and that's the way most of the rest of the world does too. Also, SOGIESC, some of you will have heard of this: sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics, and that's where we fit in. So everybody has a sexual orientation, everybody has a gender identity, everybody has gender expression, everyone has sex characteristics. They're physical and they're part of our bodies, and that's where intersex comes in. It's a physical thing that's distinct from the other categories. We all intersect, but each one of those things is distinct, and that's good for you to know. It's a good bit of information for me to quickly share with you before we go into this. So let's go to the first section. This whole my whole presentation, my whole film lecture is going to be split into three sections: activism, resistance, and being. And so let's go into activism. I'm going to start by looking at some very early films where we just begin to see people with intersex variations coming together, connecting for the first time, and talking about their experiences. So one of the first clips I'm going to show you is from Hermaphrodites Speak. And this is a film by Cheryl Chase, and it really is. It's 1995, I think. It's a 30-minute documentary. You can find it on YouTube and watch the whole thing. It's really important, an empowering moment where they're having a kind of a picnic. They're sitting together and they're just sharing their experiences. And for the first time, people get together from across the world. So I'm just going to show you a little clip about, we hear a lot of stories that are quite distressing, but we also hear a lot of hope, a sense in our community back then that things were going to change.
Speaking of babies, along with Leslie Feinberg, I'm really looking forward to the day when a child is born. You know, people put a, yellow sign on the front lawn that says it's a baby instead of it's a boy or it's a girl. I want anyone hearing this, watching this, to know that for intersexuals to come together is an incredibly powerful and moving and especially healing experience. And the doctors who told me that it would be inappropriate for me to talk to other intersexuals were just plain wrong. And I want anyone watching this, be they historians or doctors or intersex people, whomever, I want you to know that we are just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we are 10 people gathered together in Northern California, but it's just the beginning, and I can just feel how this is going to grow, and we're going to change the way that we're treated.
It's really moving hearing the hope that we feel when we get together, and it's really moving hearing that, knowing today that none of the non-consensual surgeries have stopped. There's something to kind of think about and think about as we go through this, and think about what are the things that we still need to do. And I've got plenty of ideas to share with you as we go forwards. That was Max speaking, and so. A lot of our experiences have been about medical interventions where we're told, and our parents are told, that we mustn't share our experiences, we mustn't share our stories, we have to keep things secret. That's the best thing. Where many of us haven't known about even which medical procedures have been performed on us. And so these early films are really exploring some very, coming from a place of great oppression. Intersections, the next film, many of you will have heard of this. I've spoken after this film at many film festivals, and it's Manny Mitchell speaking. Manny Mitchell was in the first film, and many of the people that were in the first film went on, a good 10 years later to be in the next film. Intersection was also the film that introduced Pigeon Pagonis, a very well-known activist now. And many others. These voices we hear again and again have become part of our culture. These people that stood up in those early days and shared their experiences with us. I'm just going to play a clip from that now.
That gathering was really the start for me and many others in realising that we'd been treated poorly. We were part of a generation of children who had been surgically and hormonally assigned to fit neatly into male or female, a generation who were left traumatised and damaged.
The problem with money's system is that when it went out into the world, it became a really damaging system. A lot of people had their genitals surgically altered in ways that left them with pain, with incontinence, with reduced sexual sensation, with all sorts of problems, and very rarely with normal-looking genitals.
I'm very angry at the genitals that were taken away from me. Very angry at how much good sensation was taken away from me. I would like to have had a whole lot more say over the body I would have had, the life I would have had, the identity I would have had.
So they're speaking really candidly, and that was the first time we heard these kind of testimonies so powerfully. And Manny Mitchell takes us through this whole film, meeting intersex people all over the world, sharing stories, and also there's a rising sense of empowerment as well as we go through the film. I highly recommend that you watch it, and you can again find that on YouTube. It's freely available to watch. Towards the end of the film, it's more rousing, and there's a kind of an empowering sense. I'm just going to play a clip from that.
There's more to being a man or a woman than just a genital. People have genitals. People are not genitals. Now, I know that's hard to believe because we've all met a lot of pricks in our lives.
Nature loves variety. We're all tall or short or fat or skinny. Why should you be stigmatized because your clitoris or your penis is smaller or larger than somebody else's?
I love being intersex. I just wish they didn't fuck with my body so much.
We have created this cycle of, oh my God, we have to fix it, shame it, hide it, and then there's another intersex birth. You've never talked about the one that might be your neighbor.
I consider my sex to be intersex. I mean, I do cross the female box when I have to choose one, but my body isn't female.
It's not just male, it's not just female. I'm intersex.
Sorry, society, because it would have been so simple if it was just male and female, but you're gonna have to change your mind now.
Intersexuality is the most common congenital difference. It's gonna be here, and we're gonna have to deal with it.
It's about down there. We're not allowed to have anything different down there.
Being intersex has been, honestly, a gift for me.
It doesn't suck to be intersexed. It sucks to be persecuted.
You get a sense of these fantastic people with different characters who are passionate about creating change. So while that was happening in the West, that was happening coming out of Australia, New Zealand, America, and there were people from Germany, there were people around the West. Over in East Asia, activism is also happening. This is about global activism. And an activist called Heike Chu, who was born in Taiwan, which is part of China, was coming into their own, really. So Haikachu started looking around and seeing how can I connect with people, how can I, having the same narrative of having had medical interventions, their parents not telling them, having to get the medical notes, the same, we see this narrative again and again in our community, and seeking to do something to change things in society over in Taiwan and China. And so some of Haika went on to found Intersex Asia. And you can see a photograph there of Intersex Asia, and also Jeff Kagandahan, who founded Intersex Philippines, and Gopi in the back there behind, who's part of is based in India. But so for Haika, engaging with media in China, so I'm going to show you a couple of clips. Now, I'm just doing short clips. One's a magazine show called Jing Magazine, and they made a video to share of Haika. And I'm just showing a short clip of it. I haven't translated it because it's a friend of mine who's Chinese called Yuji did kind of translate the gist of both these films for me so that I could give you an overview. But the first one, they're sharing with magazine readers Haika's experience of non-consensual medical intervention, of trying to find community, and also trying to raise awareness in society. And then it's a similar thing for a TV show as well called One Day an Apple, which is a TV show, which is like a current affairs show. They engage with the public, and one of Haika's activisms was to go and give free hugs to people. So just be in the streets and give free hugs. And they're just asking people, you see some like interview bits where people are trying to answer questions and understand, what does intersex mean? And it was a remarkable activism coming from a place of isolation and thinking of doing these things and then finding connection with our global community. Let's have a look.
但是老天爷好像给我开一个玩笑啦，给我一个很不一样的身体，他也给了我很不一样的一个人生。好像呢，如果没有这样的身体呢，我觉得我不需要去体验一种不同的追求，或是不同于常人的一种自我的追寻的一个认识，也不会那么积极的想要认识我是谁这件事情。
男的、女的。同性、双性，还有一种是今天我们的主题了，请看。
2010年台北同志大游行里，出现了一位自称是阴阳人的男生。
So just a couple of quick clips just to give you a sense that this is happening all over the world. People are standing up all over the world and saying, how can I engage with my community? How can I engage with society? How can I get people to understand what needs to change? How can I get them to know that we exist and change things? Other notable films that are part of the activism one, which I didn't have space for today, is the Interface Project on Vimeo. It's all free to watch. Have a look at it. Fantastic activists uploading videos. It's part of the Interface Project's Nobody is Shameful series. We've got sociologist Georgianne Davis, who's a professor now. These are all people with intersex variations. Sean Cypher-Walls, who's an amazing intersex activist and has works with the Intersex Justice Project, along with Pigeon Pagonis, Claudia Balsamo from Intersex Italy, Amanda Sains, who is the actor who was in Faking It, the intersex actor who made a short appearance in that series, Linnell Stephanie Long, who's the police person that you saw speaking about intersex in the last clip. Many more. Go watch those videos. They're fantastic. And also XXXY. It's just a very short documentary film, again, talking about non-consensual medical interventions made around the same time. A fantastic film as well from 2010 by Phoebe Hart, which showed here, actually, it screened here at BFI way back in, must have been 2011 maybe, or 2012 now. All Kids, My Intersex Adventure. Have a watch of that. That's a road trip. You can see that on YouTube. It's powerful. It's sad, it's moving, and it's about them and their sister traveling across Australia, meeting people who also have intersex variations and trying to make sense of their lives and make sense of how they fit in their family. It's fun. And also, they've got a kind of wicked sense of humour, and it's fascinating seeing the tension between the sisters and how they resolve that. Both sisters have intersex variation. Moving to the second section of the film, Resistance, I want to look at how are we moving from that base, that powerful base that these people gave us. I want to look at like how are we taking up space to resist. How's that happening as we move forward? Where are the moments of protest? And so one of the first clips I want to show you is which includes the first intersex inclusion at Pride in London in 2018. And it's a BBC documentary by Emily Dix featuring Anik Soni. So it was kind of the film, the short documentary that introduced many people to Anik Soni's activism. And you can see Anik there with Sue Temko, who's another really important intersex activist in the UK. Again, this is free to watch on BBC Radio 1 Extra. So the clip I'm going to show you is at the end of the film, where many intersex people came together. And it's a fond memory for me and many of my friends because we all found each other and we went, and it was a very empowering moment of connection, but also of protest and visibility.
I have arranged with my friend Sarah and Magda to meet about 26 other intersex people, and we don't actually know all of them, so we've got to meet some new faces today. I can't get my head around how much my life has changed in the past year. This time last year, I'd never met another intersex person. I went to Pride on my own and was basically looking for my intersex family but couldn't find anyone. But now this year, I am going with a whole group of intersex people, and it's going to be the first time in history that we're all getting together to march. And it's a celebration and it's a protest. It's so many different things for...
See me through.
Moving and empowering moment to be together with in space, in public, with a whole bunch of intersex people in a Pride kind of protest parade, and it was a moment of history in the UK because that was the first time any of us had got together in that way. The next slide, I want to go to Argentina and take you all with me. So. In Argentina, this is very recently, this is just last year, Ceci Lopez Bench is the founder of Argentina Intersex and a great friend of mine, and Ceci is taking up space and resisting and being out in the street in Tucumán in Argentina, and they've made a manifesto, and this is part of their speech, which is recorded, and you can find it also on their website. I've put their Instagram and Twitter as well, so people can follow it and see what the activism is happening coming out of Argentina.
Soy una persona intersexual y mi cuerpo fue torturado y mutilado en esta provincia por un sistema perverso. Siempre me trataron y nos trataron como personas enfermas, con una malformación que urgentemente había que corregir. Quiero decirle a todas las personas que nos acompañan hoy que los cuerpos de las personas intersexuales son hermosos tal cual como son. Existimos y resistimos en todas partes, aquí en Tucumán, como en muchas provincias del territorio argentino, como también en diferentes partes del mundo. Hoy pongo mi cuerpo una vez más y mi rostro para decir basta a las perversidades que se siguen reproduciendo en cada hospital y clínica privada, financiada directamente por el sistema de salud de la nación. Hoy luchamos por nuestra autonomía corporal, nuestra integridad personal, luchamos por nuestra autodeterminación. Estoy aquí por ser la evidencia de la diversidad existente en el mundo, pero también estoy aquí como una persona que luchó durante toda su vida. Estoy aquí por las personas que ya no están y murieron a causa de estas torturas y tratos crueles que el sistema da a los cuerpos intersexuales.
It's so powerful to hear Ceci stand there and do that and read out their manifesto, and also for us to think that's May 2021. People all over the world are standing up and saying, stop the non-consensual medical interventions, stop. And we're being heard, but we're not being heard. And I think there are some disconnects between how we're being seen in society as cultural beings. So we could be engaging through documentary film, we could be engaging by standing in the street protesting, we could be engaging by being part of a pride event, but how are we seen as cultural beings in society that should live lives free of oppression? How are we seen to exist in society? And I think one of the huge disconnects is that we need to have much more connection with society through film, through culture, through events like this, and we need to be able to hear more of our voices in multiplicitous ways. The next person I'm going to bring you to is Jeff Kagandahan, who founded Intersex Philippines. And Jeff here, I'm sorry, the subtitles are a bit hard to read. It's a student film made by Abigail Bustos. Jeff Cadigan is reflecting on his life. And talking to the camera. You'll see some shots of Jeff with religious iconography. That's part of Jeff's family business, where they make statues, religious statues. But also Jeff's talking about, how can I connect with community and what's my purpose here? What can I do? How can I make things better? And so let's have a listen to that.
Siguro nung bata-bata, nagsasabi ako na, syempre, bakit siya, dinami-dami ng tao sa mundo, ba't ako pa? Kasi feeling mo mag-isa ka lang eh. Sabi ko, billion-billion ng population, sa dami ng tao, ikaw pa yung parang tinamaan, sa'yo to. Syempre, mag-isa ka lang, yung feeling mo depressed ka. Pero, as yung nagmamature pala, naisip, syempre, nag-Catholic school ka, tapos, pag kaya ako nilikhang ganito, ano kaya yung purpose ko? Diba? Then, I realized na, siguro, may mission sa akin si God. Naniniwala kasi ako na kapag binigay sa'yo, may purpose kung bakit yan, may dahilan. Hindi kasi basta bibigay sa'yo ng ganyan eh.
Bagaman malaki ang pagkakaiba nilang mga intersex sa ibang tao, meron din silang mga pangarap na katulad lang din ng iba.
Meron akong anak, 8 years old, na babae. Siyempre kasi, kahit intersex, sabing intersex, we also dream of having a family of our own. Kaya yun nga ang sinasabi ko sa mga members namin, na hindi ko mo intersex ka, wala kang karapatang magkaroon ng pamilya. As intersex, we are human too. Kung ang mga sinasabi nilang normal ay may rights, kami rin meron. May karapatan din kaming mahalin at magmahal.
I find that so moving. He's so articulate there. So I'm going to move to New Zealand now. We're going to see a young intersex activist, Michaela Cahill. This is a film by Zoe Madden-Smith that I'm going to show you a very short clip of, called I'm Intersex, I Wish Doctors Had Left My Body Alone. On Instagram, Michaela's Instagram name is SickMick, and also this is the organisation that they're a board member of and secretary to, Intersex Trust Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'll take you to the clip. This clip I'm going to show you, we talk about non-consensual medical interventions. One of the consistent things that happens is removing internal testes or gonads. So what in many intersex people would be the way that we might get, depending on your variation, hormones, the way certain hormones might work for you. By removing them, that means for the rest of that person's life, they're reliant on hormone replacement therapy. And it's not necessary. There's this myth that's been perpetuated for decade after decade about we have to remove these organs because they might become cancerous. Nothing's really being proven. There's nothing definitive about it, and enough's enough. We hear the story back, from people in 1995, and then you have a young person now mourning the loss as well of that surgery and feeling misled. It's a really strong sense I have as well when I hear about Michaela's work. And Michaela does really empowering videos and is really creative, and I know is going to be a force to be reckoned with going forwards. But I really want to be coming back here in a few years' time and doing another talk where we've actually gained equality rights and liberation from non-consensual medical interventions. But here's Michaela's story.
I was never given any information on the types of cancer that I would be exposed to. I was also never given an alternative of like what would happen if I didn't have the surgery. It was like, you need to do this because this is what bodies should be like. And so my ability to make a really informed choice around a life-changing surgery was essentially taken away. And I said yes, I think, because I was scared of getting cancer when I was older. Which kind of infuriates me now, because to this date I still haven't had any doctor, actually present me with any information around the risk of that.
I was thinking about this and about the kind of anger that we feel, the kind of incensed anger. And the next film I'm going to come to is called Both, and it's by it's a Peruvian-Canadian-US film, and there you can see a photograph of Jackie Parker there, who plays Rebecca, the protagonist. The director of this film, Licet Barcelos, I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, but that's my best effort, is actually an intersex person. But none of the actors in the film are. And it focuses on the journey of the protagonists as they discover that they have gone through non-consensual medical interventions. They didn't understand, it all been hidden from them. They didn't understand what had been done to them when they were very young, and decisions being made about them. And they feel increasingly angry as we go through the film. And then they have moments. It's a great film. I recommend watching it. Again, you can rent this or buy this on Vimeo. They have moments of fantasy where they fantasize like attacking the doctor or having a huge row, with their mother or who consented to the surgeries, and they have all these kind of moments. And I almost felt like there was a kind of, and the music's fantastic, and I thought there was the whisper of a Tarantino-esque revenge movie that we haven't seen yet. Where we could maybe see, I could just see this character being that person kind of marching through the film, exacting revenge and changing the way things are happening. But here, this is quite an intimate moment where we have the main character talking over the phone and realizing that they have to do something.
So one day I wake up and I'm in the dark in the closet, and my parents are talking. They were talking about my brother, about an operation.
Was he sick?
I don't know. I don't know anything. But I remember that they used this word, and I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I remembered it.
What was the word?
Hermaphrodite.
Go get your brother's records.
see even from that short clip, it's got a great energy to it as we kind of travel through the film. So looking still at resistance and but moving from intersex film directors and intersex activists having documentaries made about them, I want to talk about Hannah Gaby, who's a fashion model, many of you will know, has done some work with Interact, the fantastic American intersex organization, and has done things for Teen Vogue to talk about being intersex and the harm that the non-consensual surgeries did to them. This is an Instagram post they made in 2021 at Pride. I just think it's worth, what you feel from this is how we are very much all connected. When I first made the new intersex inclusive Pride flag, I just put it on Instagram from our Instagram channels, and it was picked up from there and it went viral, and then it suddenly overnight spread all over the world and people were talking about it everywhere. And then even in this post on Instagram, Hannah's saying what a Pride month this was. Before coming out as an intersex person, I never thought I belonged at Pride. Actually, the main reason why I think intersex surgeries are happening is to fit us into a heteronormative ideal. This year, a new flag was introduced, and there was a lot of speculation online if intersex people want to be included. And let me tell you, I'm so proud and happy to be part of the acronym. Not only do most intersex people belong in more than one of the letters in the acronym, but we also face discrimination by the same sick laws that are set up to hurt our trans families. We still have no protection over our own bodily autonomy, and let's face it, we all know there's more than the binary world we learned at school. And there's a really powerful picture of them protesting and taking up space and resisting. The next clip I want to show you, and it becomes very meta when we see how interconnected we all are globally. This is a French-speaking film. It was premiered here at the film festival. I think it was in 2019. I was here then, it's called No Box for Me, an intersex story. I remember when I first saw this picture everywhere. As an intersex person, I was really excited. I wanted to know more about it. It's three intersex people come together, traveling many miles, or share letters together and speak to each other to find connection, to feel empowered, and to ultimately take some charge of their lives and feel that they have some ownership of their lives in the face of the medical interventions they've experienced. There's a beautiful scene in it where two of them are sitting on a bench and one of them brings a gift for the other. And I'll just show it to you now.
Ta-da! Attends. Oh! Oh oui! Oh! C'est tellement cool! C'est Pigeon qui l'a fait? Ouais. C'est tellement génial. Waouh. So cute to be.
Mais à part ça, c'est quoi la taille?
C'est maintenant que tu regardes ça.
Oui, parce que j'ai acheté un S.
Ouais,
et ça me paraît méga grand.
Non, ça va, c'est un S
américain.
Ouais,
Audrey m'a fait un super cadeau de Pigeon. Elle lui a expliqué qu'on voulait nous aussi créer dans quelques mois une association de soutien pour les parents et les enfants intersexes. Wow. Tu voudrais nous aider?
I'm Intersex is beautiful.
Sex is beautiful.
Ouais.
Ouais, c'est super. In Intersection, we see a young pigeon talking to camera in the second clip I showed you at the beginning of this presentation, and now part of Pigeon's activism is making T-shirts saying intersex is beautiful, and then we see people still making films, young people, but now they're giving each other gifts that Pigeon's made. Talking of Pigeon, let's move to A Normal Girl. This is a fantastic film. I recommend everybody should see this film. It's really, really intelligent, by Aubrey Bernier Clark. focusing on Pigeon's activism. There are some, again, it was shown here, screened here in 2019. There's an amazing moment between Pigeon and their mother, where Pigeon's mother is very movingly, they're having a conversation about why, the non-consensual surgeries were agreed to, and it's and how misled Pigeon's mother felt, and how distressed they still are that happened. And I must say, I do have friends who've had some surgeries as they were growing up that they're not unhappy about. So, it's not about saying some people are okay with the surgeries. It's about saying, are these surgeries safe for everyone? If not, let's wait until everyone's old enough to make choices about their own bodies and have elective surgery that they choose. Just to be really clear about that. It shouldn't be, and it's unfair to force and pressurize parents to make decisions that they don't fully comprehend. How can they guess how that child's gender identity will be, or what their sexuality will be, or all the important things that only we can know personally about ourselves. But in comparison to that, at the end of the film as well, there's a parent, a young parent, who had heard about non-consensual medical interventions and had given birth to an intersex child, and is talking about how they said no to doctors and didn't allow their child to be operated on. And there's a clip I'm going to show you as well in this film about that. But when we come into this film, we meet Pigeon. Pigeon went back to the Laurie Hospital and campaigned outside it with a megaphone asking to stop the non-consensual surgeries being done on intersex children. It's the same hospital where Pigeon surgeries were done, and went back again and again and again. Eventually, the hospital did agree to end some of the surgeries, but some of the main intersex variation that causes the majority of surgeries, which result in removal of clitorises or reductions in clitorises and causes so much harm, continue to be done. They haven't agreed to stop those surgeries. So there's a big battle still to create change there. A lot more campaigning needs to be done. But here we are seeing Pigeon standing outside, getting ready to protest outside the hospital.
Hey! I love it! I love it. I love it so much.
This hospital knows that intersex people exist, but they refuse to believe that we can exist left alone in the bodies we were born with. And that's why we're here demanding bodily integrity for not just intersex people, but for all people. And when we demand not to have surgeries forced on us, we're also demanding that people who are trans, gender nonconforming, or anybody else who wants surgeries are able to get those freely and easily.
No justice, no peace. No intersex surgeries! No justice, no peace! No intersex surgeries! No justice, no peace! No intersex surgeries! No justice, no peace! No intersex surgeries!
Intersex is awesome! My name's Ori, I am 10 years old, and my pronouns are they, them. I met Pigeon for the first time at Gender Odyssey 2 years ago. I thought Pidge was super cool.
Pigeon was the first time Ori met another intersex person at a Gender Odyssey conference, and that was actually when you learned about the surgeries and stuff. We had a doctor that was really inappropriate. They tried to pressure my husband and I and said that our child could hate us for not doing surgery. I came in with a huge stack of research, and I basically was like, we want to get hormone levels checked, we want to know all this stuff and what's going on, but there's no way we're going to do any surgery that's cosmetic or aesthetic. And they definitely recommended the typical clitorectomy, and the gonads could lead to cancer. And of course I retorted back with the statistics that I had found. I was really lucky that we're millennial parents, because I was able to go in there with a lot of my own research and a lot of knowledge so that I knew what I was dealing with, They couldn't really manipulate me that way.
It's really moving hearing this and getting a sense of this happening again and again and again, and how do we change this? It's happening all over the world, and this is a very well-spoken woman, probably from a middle-class background-ish with access to a lot of knowledge. We cannot expect parents to be the onus to be on parents to educate themselves if they're to protect their children. Nobody knows where, we're a 1.7%, we're a large, population. We're being born everywhere. Everyone being born everywhere needs protection and equality. We're going to have one more word before we go to the being section. We're going to have a word from Danny Coyle and their fantastic intersexy activism. This is a fantastic video they did for History Month, looking to, we're feeling very, last year, everything was very polarized and people were feeling attacked. And Danny made this brilliant video that for a lot of us felt like a bit of an anthem.
It is the state denying healthcare to trans people. It is the state mutilating intersex babies at birth. It is the state killing black and brown people, persons of colour, indigenous and native communities. It is the state denying legal recognition to non-binary people. It is the state funding and condoning violent occupations worldwide. And that is what I hope we remember this month. It isn't what differentiates our struggles. It's what unites them. We're fighting for the same freedom, for the same right to exist. And I hope we can do that together.
Oh, it was Pride. I thought it was History Month, but it was for Pride. But fantastic and very well said. I just wanted to make a quick note as well. For years I've been doing events and doing things with BFI, Flair, trying to get intersex visibility, and I've been asking for ages to add the I after the T so that we can be visible. We're not included in the Equalities Act, so that 2010. So that means there's no remit to include intersex people or to fund our work or to support us. Unlike LGBT people, we have no protections, and we have there's no set aside funding or to help us make films or to help us help support us to be the creative, fantastic beings that we are. We'd love to engage more. So it's part of systemic change, get that I visible and keep it there. And of course, in 2020, they did, I was going to be when I did the event. I was very excited. You can see the I after the T. And then I didn't know, but after 2 years, the new acronym, we're hidden back behind the Q. And nobody knows why it matters. And, I can understand there's no person who's with an intersex variation who has a seat at the table to let them know what's going on, why it matters. And in the absence of our inclusion in the Equality Act, they are doing their duty. They see the most important letters at LGBT, that's in the Equality Act. We're covering that. We're doing our job. It needs somebody like me. They need somebody like me sitting at that table. I would love to have conversations with these people and say, this is why it matters. This is why we need to create systemic change through best practice, because we cannot wait for government to do it for us. And now on to being. So this is Intersex Nigeria. It's a fantastic piece from their TikTok. I recommend you all go to the social medias that they have. They're making great, empowering videos. Intersex people should be recognised.
Intersex people should be recognised.
I love that. It makes me cry because it's so empowering, and because in being this section of my film lecture, I'm very much moving away from the pathologizing narratives and saying, what are the stories we might be telling? We might be telling empowering things with a small clip to say, we want to be recognized, we want to be seen and feel strong. Moving away from narratives or stories told about us to how might we find ways to feel joyful. Moving to Ponyboy. Many of you will have heard of this. Again, it featured at BFI in 2019 at the Flair Film Festival. River Gallo, you can see that's rivergallo.com. That's their website. Do go to it. You can also rent their video on Vimeo, who aren't sponsoring me, but perhaps they ought to be. I'm going to show you a quick clip of this film. It was a very short film that they did with a view of a concept piece, with a view of getting more funding. But it's a fantastic character. We see this character who, as you can see from the text on there, is an intersex runaway. They work in a laundromat, but they have these fantasies about a kind of white knight, literally a cowboy dressed all in white, who's going to save them. And it's a fantastic film, fantastical, I should say, with many dream sequences and looking for where the character's trying to find a sense of feeling empowered. And you can see how in the film, even it's such a small piece, the medical interventions that they experienced, how they've affected them and how they've been held back by them. But this film uses imagery to show things. It uses kind of dream imagery. It uses repeated motifs of horse motifs, pony boy, little ponies everywhere. We hear in the story that every time that they were taken to the hospital, they were promised a My Little Pony if they would be a good boy and go to the hospital without fuss. And so it's a really moving piece. But this is a fantasy sequence where they meet their knight in shining armor.
You're the prom queen. Imagine us rolling up in that white Mustang of yours.
Oh, that old thing.
I love that old thing.
It's yours if you want it.
Don't fuck with me.
You can have whatever you want. You just have to think you deserve it. What do you want, Pony Boy?
Fantastic little film, well worth a watch. And I'm going to talk about some intersex activists, intersex actors, intersex creatives, and some of the work they're doing. In my huge efforts to create representation, I also work in casting in television and film for intersex people. So to bring intersex people, actors, to connect them with roles. And so Kai Griffin, a fantastic dear friend of mine who I met while I was in the process. Well, I met them and got to know them, and then I was in the process of working in casting for Hollyoaks, and so and they were so talented. I knew that they would be snapped up, and indeed they were. And they're currently playing non-binary character Ripley Lennox. I'm just going to show you a clip of their work there. This is when just before these two characters get together and they're currently in a romance on Hollyoaks. But here we go. So Kai Griffin, who's the person on the left of your screen as it starts.
Are you sure the card reader's here?
What are you doing that's so important? Signing up to a dating site.
This app's different. Look at this. Under gender.
Non-binary.
Like I said, it's different.
So, why go on there now?
It was spending time with my parents. They make each other so happy, laughing at each other's jokes. I never thought I'd say this, but I want what they have. So I need to fill out this profile, and I hate bigging myself up.
How about, although I am banging in my pictures, I'm about 12% better looking in real life.
That's extremely accurate.
Or, I'm a catch. Other people have missed out, so don't make the same mistake.
And that's extremely sweet.
That was my way of saying I made a mistake. Your parents, what they have, it sounds amazing. I'd like that too. I think we should be more than friends.
And they are. It's fantastic. So if you have stopped watching Hollyoaks, I reckon you should dip in again and see all the exciting stories that are happening for the queer community that we love. I featured this in, because I'm a columnist at Diva Magazine, as you know, And I did write a feature article about this. It's very exciting. It's just very exciting having intersex and non-binary representation, isn't it? And especially for younger people. I mean, I wish I had had these kinds of people out there representing when I was growing up. This is a fantastic clip as well of Kai that they did. They were asked to do outfits, Ripley's outfits on the way. So this is Ripley's outfits.
I can't believe you're knocking my style. I'm known for my style.
Good gracious, ass bodacious, flirtatious, trying to show patience. I'm waiting for the right time to shoot my steam. You know, waiting for the right time to flash them keys, and I'm leaving.
We're really feeling, aren't we? Like I get this feeling of joyful people coming through. They're creative, they're doing the work, and they're telling different stories. And then Kai got asked by NYX Cosmetics to represent for intersex. This is a fantastic moment. Have a look at this.
I am a black, queer, intersex, trans person, and if you're not pro all of those things about me, you're not really pro me at all. Proudly pro intersex.
Despite medical interventions, despite lack of equality, we people, we are being empowered. Somehow we're rising up and we're doing it. And here's River Gallo as well, representing in a... I don't really understand what Zappos. I've heard of Crocs, but a Clueless campaign. I remember the film Clueless. There's lots of references there. They were asked to do this kind of Britney, Clueless-y sort of character. And here's River Gallo, whose pronouns are they, them, just rocking it. Like proving that we can engage with culture, people can sponsor us, and we could be making good films if people would invest in us. I want to speak a little bit about, I don't have film clips for these last few people, but I must mention them. Sonia and Sasha Komarova, models, they're twins. They work in modeling for Vogue. They're also photographers and filmmakers. They came out on Vogue. That's a photograph from that they were born with intersex variations. And like Hannah, they're doing amazing work and representing. Also, Desiree, DJ and model, coming out of South Africa. Amazing DJing, fantastic sets. You can, if you follow them, I've put their Instagram name, you can see in Linktree, in the link in bio, all their cool work and all the gigs they're doing. And if you see on their so many people coming forward now, creatives, and they've got Proudly Intersex, or you'll see the purple and yellow, which are colours of our flag, the purple and yellow hearts, which indicate that in our community that we're intersex. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thanks to you, Jay, my wonderful friend, who helped translate what was happening in Heike's film clips. I want to thank everyone at BFI Flair Festival who's been working with me to support intersex inclusion, and I hope to continue working with BFA Flair to create best practice, and BFI as a whole to create best practice and intersex inclusion. I want to say thank you to my dear friends across the world who shared their work with me so that I could share it with all of you and give you an idea of how we are all working together internationally in so many different ways and representing. And thanks to all the remarkable intersex activists who keep rising up and keep taking space and representing so that we can all have better futures. Thank you. I mean, we're great friends. We've known each other for ages now, and we work together in intersex equality rights to kind of improve representation and inclusion for people with intersex variations. But I wanted to ask you, I guess, about your sense of how it's been, especially being in the NYX ad, and being able to say proudly intersex and represent like that.
As you know from us speaking about it, that was a huge moment for not only me, but I feel like everyone in our community. I think to see the word intersex on a national campaign was not something anyone had really seen before, at least to my knowledge. And to be able to accurately represent that part of me was super important to not only me, but so many other people. And to be able to do that was really wonderful. And the fact that we had the support of Nyx to continue that, and make it possible was really important. And it's important to have allyship in these kind of larger companies like NYX Cosmetics and L'Oreal as an overarching brand have really committed themselves to diversity in a really authentic way. And the fact that I got to be part of that campaign just actively shows that we are getting to the point where larger brands and corporations are realizing the need for diversity.
Yeah, completely. It means so much. It means so much for intersex people to see that, doesn't it? To see that in all its entirety and understand what it means. But I don't know, when I think about it, I think about the joyfulness of it as well. We've just been watching, I'm so sorry that you couldn't be here, but we've been watching...
I'm sorry for getting COVID, so I couldn't be here. I really do apologise. I was set up to be there. I was in London, but unfortunately COVID got me. I haven't had it yet, and this is the first time. I'm really annoyed.
Oh, oh, but you're doing so well. Fingers crossed it won't be a bad one. But yeah, I just was also that sense as well of having joyful narratives, of being able to express ourselves in joyful ways and feel empowered.
Oh yeah, it's a huge. I think I am constantly in what I do looking for ways to represent in a joyful manner and to use my identity in order to reach out to people in a way that isn't scary, because I feel like especially there's so many parts to being intersex and being part of our community that is sad because we are not well taken care of. And because of that, I think that it is really important that in the same way that the rest of the LGBTIQA community gets to celebrate their identities, so should we. And so in pretty much everything I do, whenever I even come to a role, when I come as a person of interest to a campaign, I feel as always part of my job is to bring a sense of joyfulness to the room, and remembering that joy is at the center of what I do, and it's at the center of my core beliefs of how activism should take place. And we can remember that things are hard, but there is joy in being ourselves, and it's fighting for ourselves to be allowed to have that joy. That's what we're fighting for.
Yeah. It's true. That's fantastic. Educate yourselves, watch the films, use the new Pride flag, which is intersex inclusive, but also, you know, we need. I do this so many times, and there isn't an answer. What I say is, it's all of us, it's society, it's the law is informed by social norms. So you don't change the law and then expect society to catch up. That's not how government works. Government works by seeing that society has changed its attitude towards a particular set of people, and then they get protections, then they get inclusion. And we can see that from Alan Turing, that Alan Turing, the oppression of Alan Turing, who was chemically castrated, you know, at a time when morally society thought that it was wrong to be gay. As society changed, then the law changed because the law was informed by social norms. And I would say that we aren't included in the Equality Act. You can educate yourselves, but it's about more than that. It's about knowing that somebody at your school will have an intersex variation, more than one person, that your neighbour might, that you could have a child with an intersex variation. You could well have relatives that you didn't know who has an intersex variation. It's knowing that we exist, that we're everywhere, that in your workplace you likely could be working with somebody with an intersex variation. It's being inclusive, and it's if you see LGBT let's have the I after it. If you in your workplace, ask for it. Ask for somebody to come and give a talk. Ask for actually actively ask for intersex inclusion and trust yourself. It's the right thing to do. It's okay. I think that it's been a long time where perhaps people didn't know how to be an ally, or they thought they had to stand back a bit and it wasn't their place, but we're actively wanting allies. I hope that's a beginning bit. I don't know if Kai wants to add to that.
Honestly, everything you said, I can agree more with. I think that allyship, especially to intersex people, is one of the most important things to us, for the fact that we are so swept under the rug by everyone. We are swept under the rug by medicine, law, and society in general. So one of the best things you can do as an ally to an intersex person is just be aware of intersex people, be aware that we exist, and we're just people hanging out, doing our thing out in the world, and then make other people aware that that is a thing that happens. Intersex people are just around in the same way queer people are just around. We're all just hanging out, trying to live our best lives, and the best way you can help out with that is honestly just being like, hey, look, this is a real intersex person I know in my life, and they're really cool. And it'd be really cool if we could protect them and they have general human rights that everybody else has, general protections from discrimination that everybody else has. It'd be nice. I feel like it's fair. But yeah, I feel like that's the best way you can be an ally, is to if you see injustice, speak out on it. And if you know an intersex person, speak out about them, help bring them to the forefront. If they're doing interesting, cool things, then push them to the forefront, give them a voice. And if you don't happen to, just be open to the fact that intersex people exist within our society and that they could be doing that, and therefore should be given as equal and an opportunity to be able to do what they do as anybody else should.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think people don't, when we talk about 1.7%, what does that look like? What's our trans siblings, a comparative, a population we all expect trans people to be around us and in society, and that they should have protections. But the conservative estimate, by conservative with a small c, by Stonewall, is that there are about 600,000 trans and non-binary people in the UK. And if we compare that to the estimate that there's over 1.1 million people with intersex variations in the UK, we can see that it's of course you must expect there to be intersex people around you. Of course, you didn't know until we said, you wouldn't know necessarily that I was intersex, you wouldn't necessarily know that Kai was, or many of the people that you've seen in that video. We really are, and on the Interface project that I mentioned, that you do go and see the video, Lord Will Stevenson's talking for the Hyperspadias Society, and he's a person with an intersex variation. He was born with hyperspadias, and he talks very candidly about that in a video. So we even have somebody, there's somebody in Westminster that we know of who's shared his experience, and I think it's I remember early years, like 10 years ago or whatever, I remember saying, write to your MP, ask for change. But now I think it is more than that. It is about just being familiar with the fact that we exist everywhere and being supportive. And working with us somehow, and you've all done a fantastic job simply by getting out here and coming here today, which I'm really grateful for.
Thumbs up for everyone.
Yes.
Well done.
It's an interesting question. I would say to you, I've just shared with you a whole load of social media accounts that are constantly sharing great stuff for resources. They're intersex all the social media Kais. What we'll do is we'll get BFI to share a list of references to this talk with it. But so on Intersexy, Danny Coyle on Instagram. These are ways you can engage with people actually doing activism in the UK now, and you can find out through their link in bio about events they're doing. All these people do events, are constantly doing events. Also Intersex Asia, you can find them on Instagram, Twitter. You can find us all in Argentina Intersex on Instagram, Intersex Equality Rights UK on Instagram. You can find us on these channels. Yes, you could say, oh, go to this website, go to that website, but actually we're all on social media all the time. Follow these accounts. Most people will be something intersex, or you'll find people like I'm Valentino Inter. Many of us just use our first name and then Inter after on things like Twitter. Although, what's your Twitter, Kai?
Unfortunately, I don't follow the trend, and I'm one of those Gen Z people who's really into astrology. So my Instagram and Twitter handles are Pisces because I'm a Pisces and my name is Kai. I know, haha, it's so funny. But I think also I have to completely agree with V here of the fact that intersex resources are really all around you. You just have to look in the right places. And I think that your best shout to find out more about actual intersex people who are out there living their lives now is through social media. And honestly, it's as easy as just typing into the search bar on Instagram intersex. You will find so many different accounts and different people sharing their own stories, sharing the stories of intersex people in their communities, sharing stories of allyship that's happened. And honestly, it's so easy to access. I think the thing that makes it inaccessible is people not having any knowledge on intersex variations. So this is being at a talk like this is a great first step. Like being at a presentation like this is a perfect first step for you to be like, okay, now that I know it's out there, now that I know that these people exist and they could use a hand every so often, now I can lend that hand. And I think it's one of those where coming to events like this really does open your eyes. I mean, God, I would never have even thought to come to an event like this. I didn't even identify with the word intersex until maybe 5-6 years ago, because it was just not the word that the medical field used for me. And it is about having language to use in order to access things. And now you've got the language, so go access the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really good to do it through, rather than kind of static websites giving you all this kind of dry information. If you follow intersex activists, intersex creatives on Instagram or TikTok, you can see the work we're doing, you can see the events we're doing, you can see that kind of thing, and you can get a sense of our culture, of how we're interacting, of where we're posting stuff and that sort of thing. Also, I'm a columnist at Diva magazine, so if you search my name on the Diva website, my columns come up full of information. I've been a columnist for 2 years, and I also do journalism, writing articles about intersex. There's a ton of stuff. Follow Anik Soni. Anik on Twitter is constantly talking about intersex rights. There's so many of us. That's the way to go. Follow us. Don't look for, kind of dry, segregated, distance kind of websites necessarily. If you have to interact in America, fantastic website, Intersex Human Rights Australia, and of course, Sick Mick on Instagram is the New Zealand organisation that I mentioned, which I will try to include all these things. I think it is tough. What you'll see again and again in our stories that we will tell, and what the film footage says, it shows how we have to find community. So it's about finding community because that's where we can start sharing our stories and feeling empowered and having a sense of connection. It is very hard when you feel isolated and hidden. I don't come, like half my, so my father came from, as I said, half my family's from the global south. And he was my main parent, and it wasn't the case that there was any way to ever talk to him about things like this. It was, you know, or the fact that I was a lesbian as well. So I understand what it's like to come from that kind of sense of oppression where you mustn't cause shame, you mustn't create shame in the family. And there, it is about that. It's about finding our own communities and connecting that way. And luckily, you know, I've had some great conversations with Heike Chu, and actually on Instagram, there's the East Asian Caucus as well, which you can follow, and they do great events. I've done events with them and Heike and Jeff where we've talked about that. And so there's some fantastic resources where you can join those groups and connect with them and message them and ask for more resources. First of all, I was part of Reclaim Pride. I marched at the front side by side with Peter Tatchell, who I know and is supportive of intersex inclusion, Linda Riley, the publisher of Diva magazine, and the amazing Lady Philippoku, the founder of UK Black Pride. We marched together at the front. The UK Black Pride is using our new intersex inclusive pride flag as well. I believe in that pride should be centering the most marginalised, the most oppressed, and lifting their voices up. It's a perfect opportunity to educate publics about what's happening to the most oppressed in the LGBTIQA+ community. But you can still have corporate events which, rather than centering and promoting hierarchically the most wealthy, can instead use their privilege to promote notions of inclusion and centre giving platforms to the most marginalised. They can still do that. We don't have to think hierarchically means in a kind of polarised way that we either include or don't include corporations, you know. I think it's about changing the structural form of how we do it and remembering that it is the asylum seekers, you know, it is the people of colour, trans people. It is the people that, you know, Danny was talking about, but it's about how do we change intersex people of colour? How do we change the narrative where we know that we'll have them marching at the front? We need to engage with society. And we need society to support us and know we exist, but we also can celebrate, and we can also have corporations that are proud to do that, rather than seeing that the most important thing for them is to have the biggest bus or the largest float. They can see that they uplifted the most marginalised and feel damn good about that. And it's possible, you know, it's possible that we can do events that work together. People, all corporations, all of us, we're all made up of individual people who by and large, want to do good, but don't often get how to do it, and sometimes get waylaid a little bit, because hierarchically, everybody probably does want the biggest float. So we just have to change how that works. Did you want to say something about that, Kai?
The only thing I'll add, honestly, is the fact that there are definitely examples of the ways that corporations are able to uplift the more marginalised parts of the community. Again, another, I keep bringing up NYX, but it was also a very good campaign. But with NYX Cosmetics working with UK Black Pride and Stonewall for that particular campaign, and then being able to fund specific research, which is now hopefully leading to better resources within the respective charities, I think that that's one of the best ways that corporations can really involve themselves in things like Pride and Reclaim Pride and Black Pride. It's really important that these corporations realise that if they're not going to be an asset to our communities, that's when they should step in. It's also just realising that, like, you're a big corporation who is probably run by white cis het men, and that when it comes to allyship, we have to avoid making it about those cis het white men again. And it is sometimes I think also when it comes to corporations, it can be really hard to avoid, because those are the guys who sits at the head of it. But it's important that we remember that if they are using their assets correctly and supporting smaller organizations who are able to actually show the diversity that is needed, then we can have corporations still involved in things that are for marginalized groups.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very eloquently said, as always, Guy. Thank you. Absolutely. In the NHS, I do work with a number of NHSs actually in my campaign, Intersex Equality Rights UK kind of campaign work, and it's about so many people within the NHS don't know about the non-consensual medical interventions that are happening to children in the hospitals, but also it's not it's about education. So I also doing. There's many layers, like working with medical students, doing workshops, raising awareness, recognizing that some doctors are also people with intersex variations. It's not just, we exist all around, but also that it's changing the way people working in the medical profession understand what they're doing and understand culturally how the intersex people's right to exist. So whilst there are no monsters, what's happening is the medical profession have done this for many years and they believe that they're helping and they believe that that's the right thing to do, just as the medical profession many years ago believed they were helping Alan Turing when they chemically castrated him. Everything, there are so many good intentions when people do practices that become archaic and that aren't right anymore. But there are, medical support that's given to people with intersex variations that's needed, and there's also we need so much more support as adults. I found, and the General Medical Council, I've done workshops with them as well. I find that there's a lot of, until you speak to surgeons doing intervention, but until that point, the surgeon's still doing it, there's a lot of appetite for change and for talking and for doing the work and for being inclusive. And, we exist not just as people, as children with medical interventions, but we exist as people who have to go in for scans. How do you go in and scan somebody whose body is literally biologically different and know what you're seeing? How do you get them to, and we, Intersex Equality Rights UK, the organisation I founded, we work very closely with the Society of Radiographers to help the inclusive pregnancy survey that they have to do before they do scans, to help them word something that could accommodate and respectfully recognise intersex bodies, where people presenting as women literally will not have, will have physical internal differences where, which someone looking at a scan needs to understand what they're looking at. So we do work in those spaces as well, where we're just literally engaging in medical spaces, and we need to have good care and there's goodwill. It's a whole other kettle of fish, this kind of the machine of medical interventions in childhood and how that all works, and the teams. And there's a legal team that we work with, Dr. Mitch, or Professor now, Mitchell Travis, and Dr. Faye Garland, and they did a Freedom of Information to find out how many surgeries are still happening in the UK, and they've actually increased, they haven't got less, and they're, so medical interventions in the UK are still happening, and they're very poorly kind of monitored, and there's a huge lack of support for psychosocial support, therapeutic support for young intersex people, as well as intersex adults and their families. That's what we really need. Psychosocial support, not scalpels. So yeah, but thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, it's a very complex terrain because of the different areas. No, if a parent doesn't consent, then nothing can happen. But there's a lot of pressure, as you heard from the young parents speaking, to comply. And where parents don't know, and it's contextualized as a medical emergency, it's a social emergency, in other words, that somebody with an intersex body can't be left. It's considered an emergency, even though it's not a physical health emergency. What's happening there is it's almost become a routine thing where there's an expectation that your child will be surgically assigned a gender. and that means removing or changing flesh. So parents have to, yes, you could say children, there's something called Gillick competence, some of you might have heard of that as well, where people are expected to be able to consent when they're a certain age. But I would say, I don't think any child fully understands what their sexuality, their sexual orientation will be, what kind of sex they want to have, and nor should they have to think about that. I don't think it's fair to expect a child to understand fully what they all those things, or be demanded, be asked for. When a trans child, for instance, is coming forward and saying, I have a very strong sense that I have this gender identity, we have to believe that. That child's thought about it, they've considered it, they have a strong sense of it. But where a child's not talking about it at all and you're inflicting it and demanding to know, and they haven't even had a chance to think themselves about any of these things, it's just so that their body doesn't look different. It's not fair, and it's obviously wrong. But yeah, people are signing consent forms, parents are, or guardians are, they have to, otherwise the surgeries won't take place. But in 2016, I think it was, the BBC did a report by Dr. Faye Kirtland, where parents who had been taking their intersex children to a famous children's hospital, which just escapes me, they made a complaint and said, we didn't understand what we were consenting to. We thought there were medical emergencies, but we didn't understand that we were consenting to cosmetic procedures. So there's an issue. Thank you for that question, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kai. Thank you.